Okay, today's Feel Good Friday is really just a tip for you to help you be even more successful at whatever type of goal or transformation you are working towards. Because, early on in my career, even when things were going really well, I had a really bad habit. And the bad habit was I would look at my to-do list and I would do all of the things that I found to be relatively easy or that I really enjoyed doing just, for the satisfaction of being able to cross those things off my list. Okay? And the thought behind that was like I would feel really productive by doing all these small little, tasks or the things that I really liked. It's like, oh, let me just get those out of the way. Okay? And then what would happen is I would have all of the big hard things left to do. And I had this habit of every day I would write out my to-do list, and then whatever was left over would start the to-do list for the next day. I still use this, but in a very different method now. So what would happen is I would have some of those same hard, overwhelming, or a lot of times they were like new tasks that I had to do. They would always be sort of left over and carrying over to the next day. Well, by, my strategy with doing all the things I enjoyed or the fun things or the things that required very little effort from me, getting those things done first really left it so I always had this sort of dread, this kind of negative attitude about every afternoon at work, because it meant that was the time where I had to do the things that I didn't really want to do, or the things that I thought were going to be way more difficult than they actually were when I sat down, when I finally committed the headspace to doing them. And what I found was that the longer I procrastinated on those tasks that I just put in that category, right, as going to be hard or going to take me, extra time, or we're going to just, maybe really challenge me, I left those to the end of my day. And then at the end of my week, sometimes I was even carrying over some of those tasks into the next week. It was taking me way longer to do those things. And then I started reversing my strategy, right? So I would pick one of those big projects or tasks and I would prioritize it for first thing in the morning. So before I even, checked in with all of my staff, right? Which I like to do. I like the personal connection and checking in. Before I would start picking up the phone and, talking to my collaborators and my networkers, or, people I was networking with, right? Before I was sending emails and responding to voicemails, right? I would make sure I would sit down and tackle one project. And I would tell myself I have no more than 1 hour to work on this project. And so the goal was to get as far as I possibly could, but I had to keep my head down for 1 hour. Now, here's what happened when the strategy changed, okay? I realized that number one, I wasn't holding this feeling of overwhelm and restlessness throughout my day anymore, because I was getting the one thing done and out of the way first thing. So I wasn't always anticipating that it was coming. The other thing is, there's a third thing, but it's kind of funny. I'll tell you after. But the other thing was that I realized once I started the project, right, or the task or whatever, and I needed some input from someone else, right? Maybe to bounce something off of someone or to ask, how do you do this? Or sometimes I was even just Googling things on my computer, like, how do I make sense of this? It afforded me the time to be able to do a little bit of research or reach out to people and give them time to get back to me still within that hour. First thing in the morning is the best time to reach people, right? So that live help that I needed, I would get it first thing, right in the day. The other thing that I realized was when I gave myself the 1 hour At the 1 hour mark, right, when I could then stop and move on to the next thing, I was so into it at that point. I was so committed. My head was down and I was so focused that I was actually renegotiating my day to be able to accommodate another 30 minutes towards that task, just to see it through, or just to get a little bit further along in the process. The last thing that I noticed was those afternoon slumps that we all hit. You know, it's like right around like 3 o'clock when we start to feel a little sleepy, or we're just like, oh man, I can't wait for this day to end, right? Well, that was the time of day now that I was doing all the fun things, the things like the creative things or the person-to-person contact things for me that I love to do. And so I didn't need that afternoon cup of coffee, and I wasn't just looking for other ways to distract my attention or to avoid having to do those big projects, right? And the big macro win here is by forcing myself to do the uncomfortable, challenging thing first in the day. Gosh, it really changed my mindset. I felt so much more confident. I was starting to feel so much more capable of things that weren't in my, skill set at the time. And, I was feeling empowered, right? And that's the energy, that's like that can do, right? That go-getter, that yes, I am able, right? Because we get that feeling, we achieve that attitude through doing, not thinking about doing it, not researching how to do it, not talking to people about doing it, like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, one day, right? It's like, no, by actually doing it. So the lesson learned here, if I can save you some time and energy, is to reverse the way you're organizing your day. Pick one thing that you have been avoiding and prioritize it for the first thing you do when you start your day. Okay, I hope this was super helpful. I know it's going to be really helpful for you, actually. I want to see some comments below. Keep reaching out to me privately, too. I love hearing from all of you. And I'm also going to leave the link, because some of you have been asking, how can I get more of these tips on a regular basis? And of course, subscribe to my email list. And I promise not to flood your inbox, but you'll get maybe a weekly email, twice a month email with something more to enhance your skill set and your leadership. All the best to you.